Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Rohit. I'm part of Incubate IND. Let me introduce two of the August speakers today. We have Daya Prakash sir with us, who is part of Incubate as mentor. He's the erstwhile CIO of LG and now runs a talent acquisition company called Talent on Lease. On the other hand, we have a expert in Dr. Rajeev Saraf, who's the founder and CEO of Lepton Software, a leading location analytics and intelligence solutions company and India's largest Google Map Premier partners. Over to you there, sir. You're on mute, sir.
Welcome everyone to this session today. Thank you so much, Rohit, for that quick introduction, and welcome Dr. Rajeev Saraf, to this session today. Thank you so much, sir, for taking out time to be with us and share your thoughts on how to land a dream job. I think the topic is very very relevant, and you've been around in the industry for decades together. So your experience and expertise will certainly bring a lot of value to people who are listening to this webinar or attending this webinar today. So looking forward to your valuable inputs on the topic today. Before we start our conversation, I would like to request you if you can share some brief about your organization, walk us through your organization, your journey, in course of in the next couple of minutes.
Sure. Sure. Thank you very much, Dayaji. It's a pleasure to be here and you talk about one of the most critical thing in someone's life is about getting a job. So it's a very very important topic, and I can understand and why it's important in the current age with the COVID and a lot of changes that's happening around us and the disruption that's happening around us. Now, specifically talking about Lepton Software, we are primarily GIS geospatial company. We've been in the business for more than 2 decades. We primarily, focus. We have our own set of products, which basically power a lot of telcos in terms of 5G rollout or in terms of fiber network planning or in the broadband. So we have few products which are into those areas, and then we also provide a lot of digital maps, which are basically the backbone of a lot of the planning and other kind of activities that happens in the various organizations within the government. We also supply a lot of content to Google. When you use Google Maps, some of the content that you see in the Google actually, comes from is licensed from us. So we have been very very engaged with Google. And if I look at my customer profile, typically top of most of our customers would be like top 100 or 200 companies. Most of the companies from the top 200 or 200 companies in India would be our customers. We have been doing this for more than 2 decades now. I don't know. I mean, as of course, as we move ahead, we're going to see a lot of growth in this area. The government of India has come out with a new policy that opens up, maps or unshackles the map, and we are going to see a lot of growth in this area as well. And of course, I mean, as an organization, we continue to hire people. This has been one of our biggest challenge always, people, and people is our core, and people are our strength, and they are the key to our success of our organization as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Would you like to make the presentation, Dr. Rajeev?
Yeah. So where do I see the link for? I'm not able to see the sharing link now.
There is something by screen share.
I don't see anything
below. If you see.
Now I can't see anything. It just said Incubate IND in the middle.
All right, but down below, are you able to see screen share
No, there's
option
nothing
with you?
No. There's just one screen which says, so on the whole screen is maybe somebody else is sharing that. Incubate IND is written Incubate IND.
Rohit, are we going to share the screen and the presentation?
No.
Or
Sir was doing. I'll quickly get it sorted. Yeah. Meanwhile, you can keep talking. I'll get it sorted.
Yeah, that.
Sure. So, Dr. Rajeev, in the meantime, if you can, talk about your journey. How did you start in the industry, and your journey and.
Sure. So I did my bachelor's from IIT Kharagpur, way back in I graduated in 1989, and then I went to US where I did my master's and my PhD in US, And then I came back in 1994. After I came back, I joined IIT Delhi. I joined IIT
Okay.
Delhi as a senior research scientist. I was involved into doing a lot of research on road transportation and safety. And
Mm-hmm.
some of you guys are from Delhi. You must have heard of BRTS. So I was
Right.
one of the early proponents of BRTS. That's where the idea was floated, long time
Mm-hmm.
back. And of course, a lot of focus around public transport and non-motorized transport. So those are our focus areas. But while I was in IIT, I mean, I was still very young, and I was that's being a sort of Marwari by birth. The business was sort of in the blood, and I was always looking at to do something. So I started. That's when I decided after a few years that look, I need to got to do something of my own, and then I started
Right.
called Lepton Software. And it
Mm-hmm.
started, I was slightly fascinated by maps that time, the way the kind of things that you could do
I
with the map.
see.
GIS, when I was in the US also, we were using a lot of our maps for transport planning, the same thing we're doing in IIT. And I thought,
Mm-hmm.
wow, I mean, this is, so if you think of maps, there's an old saying, which says a picture is worth, 1,000 words, right? I mean, a picture can say
True.
so many things. And the same thing they say a map is worth, 1,000 pictures. So a map
Right.
can sort of display or give you so much of information in one single image that
Right.
you probably require hundreds and millions of words to say the same thing, right? So
Right.
it was in a way it's very fascinating, and that's where our journey started. So I started this company, in I'd say around 1996, 97. And
Mm-hmm.
so when I started, that was the time actually sort of coincided with the whole telecom revolution that was happening in India, the whole wireless telecom thing. And the telecom was something by they required maps, digital maps for the planning purpose. So no
Right.
wireless site could have been rolled out for planning, and for planning that they required digital maps. And we saw an opportunity. We got into that business of providing maps to telcos, and that's where sort of our journey started. Of course,
Okay.
before that, before I got into telecom, a couple of years I kept running from government, because globally government are the biggest consumers of maps and digital, all the
Right.
GIS. I didn't really get much success.
Mm-hmm.
I got very little success. Didn't get much, and it was like very frustrating. But the
Mm-hmm.
telecom sort of came as a savior for us, and we moved into it. And then since then we have grown. We built a lot of expertise around telco. We built a lot of solutions around telco. In between, I started a company also called in 2000, when the whole first internet boom was happening, was a company called Manchitra.com.
Mm-hmm.
We were the first, if you actually ask, we were the first online mapping services company to come in India, much before Google came in, right? Globally, our sort of uh, the company that we wanted to be was MapQuest. MapQuest was the big player in the US.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we wanted to be like MapQuest, but the biggest challenge then we faced was there was no maps, there was no digital maps available. I mean, India is a huge country, and the cost
Right.
of building the maps was so huge. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, by the 2001, the whole the boom happened to the bust, became the
Mm-hmm.
bust, and then we moved into more into enterprise side of the business.
Mm-hmm.
And then I exited Manchitra, again came back to Lepton Software, and since
Mm-hmm.
then I've been with Lepton Software. We have grown the company. Now we have global presence. We are present in US, India, Singapore, and Dubai. We have global customers. We just started a joint venture with another company in Australia. So since then we've been growing, and
Okay.
yes, it's been of course the God has been really supportive, and the
Excellent.
people have really worked hard to make us where we are today.
Excellent, excellent journey, and it's an interesting shift. Right from academia world to the enterprise, and I really like your this thing. Statement where you said that being Marwadi, business was in your blood, and that's where you were supposed to land. And I'm seeing, that you came here in IIT Delhi, started your journey with the academia, just
Yeah.
to kind of build that strong foundation that you could actually extend a lot of solutions to the enterprises, which brings great value.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, when I came to IIT, of course, I really loved my work there and this thing. But I just the whole academy, I just felt was moving very slow. And you were young that time, right? You are young and aggressive, and you want to do you want to do a lot of things. The speed was
right.
there. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent, fantastic, fantastic. So
Uh, s-
you know
Sorry to interrupt.
yeah.
Did one of you have issues with screen sharing?
Yeah, Dr. Rajeev is having some issue.
I can't even see the screen sharing icon in front of me. I mean, that is my problem actually.
Okay, can you see the dock below with the
No,
record?
that's the thing. I can't see the
Okay,
dog.
so there's a button that's pointing up, an arrow button. Can you see that at the bottom of the screen?
There's nothing. There's just, there's incubate IND written in the middle of
Yes.
the whole screen. At the bottom again, at the incubate
Yeah.
IND.
So just click on the screen once.
Nothing.
Click on the incubate IND. So I think you're full screen the thing.
Escape, just to make sure that if you want, I can reconnect. My guest presenter. Do you want to reconnect again?
No, you can just give me 1 minute. Please continue. I'll
If you want, I don't know. I can't even. I can share my screenshot.
no. Please continue. I'll fix it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, great. So this was like about 2 decades back that you started this company, Lepton, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, and the solutions were primarily in the telco domain and
Yeah.
more related to GIS as an
Yeah. So
solution.
yeah. Right. Right.
Mhm.
So initially,
Excellent.
when we started, of course, it was more very centric, telco.
Mhm.
Of course, everything that we do relates to maps, right? But
Right.
maps, it's not just map. What we see is just not map. These maps are much more than that. If I talk in some of the technologies today, the
Mhm.
kind of thing that we're trying to do is like we're trying to use machine learning to understand the change detection that can happen. Looking at satellite imagery, so you have to get now we can get very detailed satellite imagery at a very fast frequency. We have
Mhm.
to identify, okay, how much changes happened. Let's say, a classic case could be, what we had a border dispute with China. And if
Mhm.
somebody wants to see, okay, what kind of buildup is happening on the border, and you
Mhm.
don't know, you put like 15,000 kilometer of, borders, and nobody can manually look at, this 15,000 kilometers of satellite imagery every day. So you
Right.
need some tools which can automatically do the change detection and show, okay, where the changes are happening at
Mhm.
specific times, right? So the
Right.
similar kind of things are being used to track, urban growth, unauthorized construction. So a lot of now we are suddenly seeing a lot of machine learning techniques and AI techniques being used into, I mean, broadly what we call GIS or geospatial industry.
Right. 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 That's an interesting this thing growth and
And
interesting journey.
we also became, in between, as I said, we saw a change that was happening when Google started coming in.
Mhm.
And of course, when Google came in, we all of us use Google Maps in our consumer life, right? As a Google Maps, but
Right.
Google Maps also has something called Google Maps APIs. They call it now as Google Maps platform,
Right.
which is commercially licensed. So if you're going to build some application and if you want to use Google Maps within your application, you actually
Mhm.
need to license them. And so, of course, like a classic example of that would be Uber. Uber is an application that
Mhm.
uses Google Maps. So they actually license the Google Maps from Google, right?
Right. Right.
So what Google did was, by bringing these APIs, they sort of democratized the whole GIS industry, right?
Hmm.
Earlier, the cost was prohibitive, the content was not there, the quality of content was not there. So very
Hmm.
few organizations would actually adopt GIS as a mainstream technology into their organization.
Right.
Now Google Maps coming in now. I mean, like I mean, almost every it's become very GIS become horizontal technology now, right? So every organization we see adopting from Swiggy's and Zomato's to Domino's to logistics company. You talk about telco companies. You talk about insurance, finance, field force tracking, retail. It's just the use cases are across every industry now, including
Right.
HR. You're working
Yeah.
from home. You want to give attendance. They want to geo. They want to make sure that you are at your home. They can do geo fencing and geo tagging.
Right.
So everywhere it's
Absolutely.
getting, yeah,
And even like day to day life, we've got so used to it that gone are the days when somebody had to meet someone and would ask for the address. The guy
yeah,
will call up and simply say share your location, right? I mean,
yeah,
nobody is asking your address anymore, right? I mean, which
right,
part,
right,
where you are, just say that share the location and I'm there, right? So the whole
yeah.
industry has changed, transformed, and there are so many use cases out there.
And India, especially, people don't ask addresses because if you go to a lot of places, there's no address actually. I mean, if you look at that's been our biggest problem, right?
Mhm.
if you look at globally anywhere in the world, if you ask somebody address, there are two things to the address. The first thing, they'll give you a house number, and they'll give you the second thing, they give you a street name.
Street name.
I
Right.
mean, yeah, like we don't have a street name. Like 99% of the streets in Delhi will not have a name.
Right.
And then if you go to the tier 2 and the old areas, there's no even house numbers. You just can't get them.
Right.
So it's all by reference. Temple ke samne, is mandir ke samne,
Right.
people ke peer ke piche. That's how our address, or Domino's ke saath mein. It will give you
Right.
those kind of reference.
Right.
Yeah, so
Right.
this is really good for even countries like India, where we don't even have a proper address to be able to share location.
Right. Right. No, India is. I mean, there is a lot to be done in India. I mean, because end of the day, all these things have to be digitized. Without which, it's the growth is not possible. But thanks to the penetration of internet and everything, slowly we are reaching there. At least two things are, becoming vast adopted, which is the consumption of internet. The other thing is the use of WhatsApp, even in the deepest pocket of India. I mean, these two things have at least started and revolutionized the whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
So I think we are
some things for good and something for bad.
right.
WhatsApp is also the biggest channel for fake information and news and things like that. So, yeah,
Right.
of course, everything has dual purpose.
Right. But as long as it helps us share location, reach to each other, I think these are all some solid good use cases.
Absolutely.
And involution will actually be part of any access to the information that you receive, right? So it's up to all of us to filter it out. But that's the opportunity that we have, at least, right?
Absolutely, I agree with you.
Right. So 94 you started this journey, right?
Yeah.
Coincidentally, I started my career in 94.
Oh, great.
I completed masters. So I completed master. I also belong to Rajasthan. I completed my graduation, post graduation in 94, and started working. So I belong to a small place in Rajasthan by the name of Sri Ganganagar.
Oh yeah, I know.
So for us, the job hub was Delhi only, Delhi NCR. At that point of time, in IT specifically, other than the EDP and a lot of other stuffs where application of IT was not as high as as it is now. Now, in fact, places like Jaipur, Udaipur, Jodhpur, they are all become IT hub. Bikaner, all of them, they have become IT hub.
Absolutely.
But
that's one of the things I was going to talk in my presentation was also about the growth of the IT hubs.
Right.
Yeah. So what happened? There's some problem because.
So I think it's being sorted out. But I thought we will have the discussion, and maybe you subsequently you can make the presentation. So we can do the discussion part first, and then get on to your presentation. We'll just slightly change the format actually, and for that, if required, we can request you to log in again as well, if needed. Yeah. So let's just have this conversation, and so that then we can do the presentation part later, right? We can just flip it.
Okay.
Yeah. So 94 you started this journey, and it's been almost 2.5 decades that you're into it. So in the process, you've been helping a lot of lot of people in lending them a dream job for them, right? So walk us through the journey of Lepton's start to growth, and how have been you helping youth ever since in lending their dream job with respect to your organization. And then I'll obviously seek your inputs on the industry trends and all these things, but maybe start with your organization first.
So I used to always say that Lepton has always been a training ground. We were a small company we started, right? I mean, everybody wants to. I mean, typically a lot of people want to work in the larger organizations, and people would come and work in our left-hand software, and then they would get great jobs in the bigger organizations, including Google, Facebook, Amazon, and those kind of companies, right? So they always saw left-hand as a good place to work and get trained. Of course, as an organization, we started small, right? I mean, we also grew organically, over the time, and the kind of skill sets that we required also evolved. Right? I mean, because the skill set that are required for making maps are very different from somebody who's working on, analyzing satellite imagery. There's somebody who has to develop applications, right? So initially our focus was, because there's no content, the focus was initially on building maps. So we had larger workforce around, those kind of skills, right? When we moved more into satellite imagery processing, then we got those kind of skills. Now, over the last few years, a lot of our focus has been more on building, application solutions and our own software products. And that's where we started, hiring a lot of software engineers as well. In the last 10 years, we built our, a software team. And within the software team also, again, like we have seen how the technologies have continuously grown. I mean, initially we were doing desktop, then we moved on to web, then to mobile, and now it's all cloud. So last few years we started building applications which are native, cloud applications. And so, as I said, the point I'm trying to make is the skills set that is required into organization is not static.
Right.
It evolves as the organizations are evolving, and as the outside world is also evolving. I mean, I cannot be isolated to, what is happening, outside the, my organization.
True.
Right. I mean, and typically when we, and especially, in the world now where the whole concept of innovation has changed. If you think of innovation, and you said you've been in the workforce since 1994. If you go back 20 years back or 25, all the innovation was happening in the workplace.
Right.
I mean, people in the workplace would have Blackberries. They would come and think, wow, you can check your mail on the Blackberry.
Right.
Somebody from office would come with the latest laptop. What did you call them in the hands? Those devices, iPad? No, not iPad.
The tabs and the notebooks, tab.
Yeah, and you'll be wow. I mean, like so all the innovation was, if you look at earlier, was happening in the enterprise world.
Right.
Now suddenly, or the workplace. Now suddenly, if you look at the history of last 15 years now, or 10, 15 years, now all the innovation is happening in the consumer world.
Right.
And the workplace and the enterprise are now struggling to see how to cope up. I go the Apples and the Androids, the Apple phones and the tablets and Netflix, whether it's related to streaming, whether it's related to anything you think of, the speed, the performance, everything is in the now consumer world, and we are struggling to replicate the same thing into our enterprise world. You look at the apps which are being built in the consumer world, so easy to use, so so stable. And we go out in the enterprise world, they still have that old ugly 15-year-old look and feel, and you are like, why can't I have the same experience that I have in the consumer world?
Right.
Because of the consumer world, the expectation in the enterprise world has really gone high.
Right.
And because they look at they say, oh, look, I am getting something here for free, which is much better, much easier to use, and much faster, and I pay you, and I still am not getting the same performance. So that shift has really put a lot of pressure on the organization, but it's also good, right? It's also created a lot of opportunities to the organizations. So in terms of skills, yes, the point was that the skills we have continuously, as we've grown, we've also added a lot of skills. If I look at 20 years back, I did not have probably a dedicated, UI UX, guy, the user interface.
Right.
Yeah, but today it's like almost mandatory to have one within your organization.
Right.
5 years or 10 years back, I was not even thinking about digital marketing. Today, when I'm thinking, I mean, if I think of in last few months, I'm almost like working like a CMO in my organization or head digital marketing guy.
Right.
So much of things are happening, and that's becoming more important in sales today.
True.
So the requirements are evolving within the organizations, and so I mean, it's a change. It's a continuous change, and I think
Correct.
that's where it's also important that the people who are into the market for jobs, they used
Right.
to continuously keep upskilling themselves. This is the key. This is very, very important today.
Right. Right.
In the way, as an organization, we have to upskilling ourselves. As an individual, I think everybody need to keep upskilling as well.
True. That's very true. That's very true. So thank you so much, Dr. Rajiv. What I could gather is, from what you explained to us, is that the kind of job might have changed, as the journey of the organization, because initially your focus was on creating the map, so there were different skill sets those were required,
Yeah,
and then the whole digitization of those maps, and keeping of those maps, so another kind of a skill sets. But from there to now, building enterprise class applications using those maps or the inventory that you would have created to put to use, different skill sets out there. And as the enterprise work also changed, and the whole journey of an enterprise has gone to cloud, so everything has become cloud native today. So there is
yeah,
another set of combination in terms of skills. So
yeah.
building enterprise apps. Yeah.
Yeah. And the other thing we did was, and which took upon the challenge, so of course, India has always been known as a, IT hub, but primarily from a services side, right?
Yes.
If you look at TCS, Infosys, or something, I mean, we always think
Yes.
of the services organization, right? We can't think of some great products that they build, which are not visible to us, right?
Right.
So, but we took upon a challenge upon ourselves that we are going to build a product. So we built a product called Network Access, which was for, again, very telecom specific. It
Right.
was for complete fiber lifecycle management.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one of the biggest challenges that we had was, India. I think that is just lacking. There never been many, product companies in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So getting people with the mindset of building a product
Mm-hmm.
is very difficult.
Right.
They were because everybody was very service oriented. Okay, I have to do this is the task. I have to complete this task. My task is over. I deliver. It's over.
Right.
Right? I mean, in the product, it's a continuous enhancement, continuous development, re-engineering that is to happen.
Right.
And the whole thought process about version management, change management, a lot of things you have to bring into in your
Right.
product, which are not there part of when you do a project for a customer.
Right.
That was another thing, which has already, which of course helped a lot in the
Right.
structuring the organization, but that was one of the big, challenges we always faced in terms of getting the right skills for building product.
So right from mindset which is product building, product oriented, like, so
Yeah.
from there to the entire journey of DevOps is something that that was lacking, because I remember there were times in the industry when I also served during those times, when the developer used to say that my responsibility was just to put the code together. I've done that. I've actually tested it at my end. If it
Yeah.
works, it works. It doesn't work, that is what I was told, right? So
I know.
yeah, that beyond this is not my responsibility, so I can completely correlate to what you're saying. So again, as you mentioned, so the from adoption of cloud to creating cloud native applications to the product to solution, from there to, I think, obviously, the way that you are growing, the focus is going to be on data analytics today, right? So what you have created those maps, you have used those maps in the enterprise class application, but end of the day it is meaningful only when you are able to get some information or intelligence out of it, which is through analytics, right? So to me, that's the gradual
So in our industry, it has always been there.
right.
So okay. So there, I think the people need to understand different data analytics and data science. So
Mm-hmm.
data science is slightly more new, where people are start talking more about artificial intelligence and machine learning and some of the new modeling techniques. But data analytics has always been there. And when I look at GIS as a whole thing, which was always about insights, and our focus was always on how
Right.
do we use maps as a platform to provide those insights. Of course, I mean,
Right.
beyond that, also we also, in the whole data analytics, we built another product that we call Smart Market,
Right.
and we released that product, which is built around data analytics and GIS. It was so. I mean, the whole basis of this product, let's say one of the use cases, Let's say you are an operator, sorry, you are a retailer, and you say, I want to open a store. Now, how do you find out which is the best location to open your store? Now, the opening a store could be based on multiple factors. It could be based on demographics, kind of people who live in a particular area. It could be
Right.
based on competition, like what kind of competition is there.
Right.
It could be based on what kind of land use you are in. Are you in a commercial area? It's a residential area. It's a government area. So a lot of these factors are there. So
Right.
our this platform is which combines a lot of demographic data, lifestyle data, maps, and it sort of gives you a platform where you can go and analyze. So if you have 10 tentative locations,
Mm-hmm.
you can actually analyze which one will be the best for you.
Right.
This product actually uses a lot of analytics to help you make your decision making.
Sure. Sure. Um, so I was just to add to that. I was actually about 2 years back, 3 years back, 3 years back. I think I was teaching students at JP University, MBA students, and I was the visiting faculty there. So was teaching there the MBA students, and one of the assignment that I had given them was to do a bit of research on the internet-based companies and figure out their revenue model. And one of the student I remember came up and he had done some research work on company by the name of Zomato, though I have not verified the fact. But in the presentation he spoke about alternative revenue models, and one of the revenue model was that Zomato helping these restaurant owners who are thinking of expansion, where they should open the next outlet and what should be the food menu, etc., basis on all these parameters that you spoke about actually. So
Wow.
very relevant actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's quite relevant. So I think Dr. Rajeev, you mentioned about certain skill sets, right? And to me it looks like that all these skills are important in the journey, because still in India there's a lot of leg work needs to be done, right? So right from your ability to create, to uh, to to put it together as a service model, and from there to shift to the product mindset. So there is like a lot that could be done, provided
Mhm.
you have the right attitude, right? So with that I would like to take your inputs on how important as per you are the soft skills or the parameters that you evaluate, particularly the employees, to be hired employees in your organization, and what do you think is most critical attribute to that?
To me, I think very important point. As a matter of, to me, the communication is the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and not only for first thing getting into an organization, but growing into organization as well,
Mm-hmm.
right? And when I
Right.
say communication skills, it's not just about talking.
Yeah.
It's ability to write, it's ability to articulate yourself, make presentations, give presentations, those kind of soft skills. I think it's extremely, that's the first thing that's extremely
Yeah.
important. I've seen
Yeah.
great, great programmers, great coders, but very weak, skills. And so it's very tough for them to grow. When you become a team lead, you have to manage a team, you have to talk to them. When you even go higher than a team lead, so you need that skill. That to me is one of the most important skills that need to acquire. And this is
Right.
my suggestion has always been that if you're weak in that, please go out, whatever, if you have to take some courses, upskill yourself in soft skills as well. It's
Right.
not always important that you need to upskill yourself in Python or AI, ML, and data sciences. The new tech things. It's
Right.
extremely important. So to me, communication is the most important part, right?
Right.
You need to have great communication skills, and that's what take you far and it up the ladder.
Right.
Of course, the second thing is, of course, teamwork.
Right.
Teamwork in the sense, if you work together a team, you need to take the work. I mean, of course, you can't keep complaining about people. You need to work together as a team, drive the team together,
Sure.
work with them. I mean, you should not be saying, okay, maine apna kar liya, I've done my work, I don't know what other people are doing, right?
Right.
Because together, when people come together, that's when the product comes out, right? It's what you mentioned earlier. It's
Right.
not, I've done my job and I don't know what is happening, right?
Right.
The third thing I think is leadership. When I say leadership, it's not about I'm almost saying, okay, I'm going to lead the things. But
Right.
when an opportunity comes, like if you are there are 5 people in the room, and if your boss asks you who would want to do this task, I think you should take that leadership and say, I want to do it.
Right.
I mean, I think organizations like that, and that also helps you grow within
Right.
organization. They see the fire and desire in you. So
True.
these are the kind of things I think is extremely important.
Sure.
For someone to not only get into an organization but also grow within the organization.
Sure. Sure.
And
So
I've seen both
yeah.
kinds of people, and I've seen how one has done much better than the other.
Right, right, right. No, it's very critical for any person who joins in the organizations to have these basic skills, as you rightly mentioned, communication skills to team work, to the leadership, or in some sense it is more about taking ownership, taking responsibilities, or maybe self-driven resources, right, or individuals.
Yeah, right. I tell you frankly, whenever a resume comes to me, of
Mhm.
course I look through it, but always go down and look at what hobbies and extracurricular activities did the person engaged in. That
Interesting.
always gives me some sense of what the person is like.
Right. Interesting.
I mean,
Interesting.
of course, technically you expect, okay, technically people will be there, but
Right.
what is in their life beyond, the technical knowledge.
Right. Right.
you know?
Absolutely. 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 So we spoke about certain skill sets, key skill sets that are relevant to today's market and how the market is evolving, whether it is cloud to analytics to data science and mobility, obviously. So we've spoken about it all. Uh,
Yeah.
what is your take? So maybe last one or two questions that I wanted to really ask you, to take your perspective on the industry at a whole, that you see from your own experiences, from your lenses, that you know which are the sweet spots where you think that the next wave of job creation will happen, and if somebody is really looking at landing a dream job, should hone their skills on those skill sets or those technologies.
So, I mean, of course, these are pretty, known kind of thing. There's been a lot of talk about almost everything, that
Hmm.
I'm going to say. So
Hmm.
it's not something, which is going to come out new. But, I don't know. But like, as I said, we work with Google. We are Google Maps, largest partner in
Hmm.
India, and one of the top three in Asia.
Hmm.
But I've really seen the cloud computing grow,
Hmm.
and I've seen grow big. I mean, I've seen organizations which are like 10, 15 people or 50, 100 people like grow to 700, 800 in last 3, 4 year kind of time span, right?
All right.
And I've seen Google's revenue and everybody revenue grow, and with the whole work from home and people moving into organizations moving or onto cloud, and trying to I mean, like moving away from offices, working from home, they want to go into cloud infrastructure to reduce the cost as well as improve their reliability and uh, from a security perspective as well.
Right.
So cloud computing is one thing I think is going to really take off, and
Okay.
millions are going to be created in that one.
Okay.
Now, cloud computing will encompass a lot of things, and there will be all kind of profile of jobs are there. It's not that every job is going to be high paying. There are very pretty low paying jobs within that as well.
Right.
Right? It depends on which part of the value chain you sort of get into in the whole cloud computing.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, of course, we know about AI, machine learning. All these things are now
Right. True.
and from an Indian perspective, the other thing, so okay, one thing is when you think of tech jobs, you
Hmm.
only think in terms of coding,
Right.
but actually there's a lot more than coding that is happening. Almost all engineering jobs have become like a tech job today,
Right.
right? If somebody is designing an electric vehicle, it's
Hmm.
not all coding, right? I mean, somebody still have there a lot of electronics that goes into that as well,
Right.
and a lot of designing that goes into it from I mean, into that, which is also a technology part, right? It's not
Right.
all non-technology pieces. So the few areas which are going to grow, I see from where I am.
Hmm.
One is, and India is at the cusp of that. One is the space technology.
Space. Hmm.
The other one is what we call the drones or UAV, unmanned
Hmm.
aerial vehicle.
Hmm.
I'm seeing a lot of startups also come out in these spaces.
Right.
India has opened up. I mean, you must have heard about Elon Musk sending satellites into space. A lot of countries trying to build their own. dedicated communication networks through satellites. So a lot of those kind of things are now starting to happen.
Sure.
And because the cost of, again, the launching of satellites are going down, more private sector is getting into it. So that's one area we feel that a lot of growth is going to happen.
Sure.
Of course, data science and this AI ML is going to be there. I think these are all just beginning. They're just beginning to consume. There's no limit to how much
Sure.
things can happen in
Sure.
those kind of areas. So
Sure.
these are the, 3 or 4 broad areas.
Right.
I think a lot of growth. Now the other areas where it's like biotechnology. Now a lot of work is now happening globally on biotechnology. Which again, we can see a merger of biology and engineering coming together.
Right. Right.
Biomedical, bioengineering, and a lot of those areas.
Sure.
Again,
Sure.
since in next few years we'll see a lot more work happening around that, because of being driven because of genetic engineering, a lot of that kind of work, right? So a lot more, a lot of tech thing is going into that. Other than of course, the biology side of the things, a lot of tech work is also happening into that direction.
Sure. So no, I completely agree with you. There are a lot of things that are happening, and today, unlike yesterday's, when I'm talking about 2-3 decades back, when the career from point of view, it used to be either you become an engineer or a doctor, right, or you're nothing.
Yeah.
From there to the stage today, where if you have slightly bent of mind, technical bent of mind, there are plenty of things that you can do actually, and things that you really like, things that you're really passionate about. And one thing that I picked up from you, Dr. Rajeev, today is that you use the word upskilling. And to me, upskilling is nothing but making yourself relevant all the times to the industry, because the industry is evolving, technology is changing very rapidly. And if you have to make yourself if you have to stay relevant, you have to keep upskilling yourself. So upskilling is not something like a one time effort, it's kind of constant thing, right? So that's something that I picked up from you. Thank you so much for wonderful interaction today. Thank you so much, and sharing your great insights. Rohit, if we can sort out things, and if we can get the presentation piece.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Dr. Rajiv, Akhil would have written personal messages to you
On the
on the chat itself.
I can't
Akhil
see
is here.
anything on the screen. I just can't see anything.
Akhil, just help, please.
Yeah, sure.
There's nothing that I can see on the screen except for this incubate IND. I can't see anybody's, windows, photos, nothing. Just one.
Okay, could you just click on his
Akhil, does this mean that he should log out and log in again? Would
no,
that be better rather than
so
trying to
just
fix here?
just give me 2 minutes. Could you just click on the center of the screen?
I'm doing that. It's just highlighting incubate IND.
Okay, which browser are you on, please?
I'm on Chrome.
Okay. Yeah, we'll just try. Just refresh the page and join. Maybe that will.
I didn't refresh that. Okay, now I see everything back here. Okay. All right. Good. Now I can see the screen share and everything. Should I go ahead and share my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Great. Can everybody see my screen? Hello, Dayaji?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are able to see your screen. Only thing is that if it can be full screen mode.
This is on. I already put on full screen mode.
Okay. So it could be that on my screen I am able to only see in your frame. So Akhil, is there a way that I could also have this full view of Dr. Rajeev's screen? or otherwise we are fine. Dr. Rajeev, you may proceed.
Sure. So yeah, so of course, just to reiterate the today's topic, how to land your dream tech job, and of course, thank you to Incubate IND and Talent on Lease for giving this opportunity for me to talk about it. This is a issue which is very close to my heart in terms of that we hire a lot of people, and the kind of issues that I see, I wanted to really talk about that as well. And this gives an opportunity to talk about those, and it's also an opportunity for me to help the new aspirants. And also, I mean, I don't know if you know that I'm also on board of Guru Gobind Singh IP University. So it's very important, and there are a lot of students who are graduating every year. It's very important that they understand what is really required to get a job when they complete their graduation. So I think India is still, in spite of the pandemic, which is still going on, I think in India it still is a land of opportunities. Now, before even I go there, I mean, when this whole, when Incubate IND reached out to me for giving this presentation, I was talking to my son and he started laughing, and he said, "What are you going to talk about? Dream job? I mean, you've never given any job interviews. What do you really know about dream jobs?" I said, "Look, I've never given the interviews. It's true. I've given hardly 1 or 2 interviews in my life, but I've been always on the other side. I've been on the receiving side, and I think I know what I want in the what I look in the candidates, what I look in the people we want to on board. So I'm sure that I can go out and give some gyan to people out there. So of course, the new generation doesn't trust us that we can actually tell them something which they don't already know. So anyway, but I still thought I'll give you some idea and at least set the ground that I don't be disheartened. In spite of the pandemic, in spite of everything happening around us, there's still huge amount of opportunity in India, and it's also because of how we are placed globally, right? So even if we look at 2021, where the moment the pandemic happened, most of the organization put a break on the hiring, they put immediate freeze, right? Because everything stopped working, the lockdowns, people didn't know what to do. In spite of that, there were almost 140,000 new hirees in 2021, net new hirees. It's not a small number in the tech industry. India is still the second largest digitizing economy in the world. We are moving into the digital economy very, very quickly. It's expected that there will be 65 million jobs by 2025. Currently, if I look at the tech industry only employs around 4.5 million. They have 4.5 million jobs in India. Now, if we talk of tech industry by 2021, they expect it to be around 8 lakhs. AI jobs more than 100,000. So around August 2020, somebody did analysis of all the job openings around data science. They saw that there were around 100,000 job openings, I think on LinkedIn or some other platform for data science. And it's expected that by there are going to be 1 million cloud computing jobs by supposed to be 2025. So huge opportunities in these areas. I think the market is really opening up. Now the other big thing that is happening is a lot of new startups are coming up year on year, and just 1,600 new startups were added in 2020. Now, so these are just some of the pointers that sort of gives you a sense of where the market is going. But we have to understand that what are the macro drivers for the tech jobs in India today. What happened during pandemic was everything locked down, and people just did not know. I mean, people who had on-prem system, they just didn't know what to do. So the first thing that started happening, the big thing started happening, that everybody wanted to move on to cloud. Now, before even the pandemic had started, there was already a great push toward digital transformation. And what the pandemic did was it sort of accelerated the whole digital transformation. And digital transformation, a part of the digital transformation is also about automation. And so people know although they cut down a lot of budgets during the pandemic, but after the pandemic, a lot of all the organizations have put their budget and a huge amount of budgets into digital transformation. And this opportunity, what is happening at the global level, is also creating huge opportunity for Indian companies, because India is today an IT hub, and we almost have, I would say, around 8 to 10% of global IT business in India today. So it's a huge business for India that we get from global, marketplace, and that's what also drives a lot of opportunities in India. Now, other big driver that is going to be happening for tech jobs in India is the rollout of 5G. Of course, it may not happen in the first part of this year. It might, by the time it starts happening, it could be early next year or even second part of the year. What 5G per se, it's not that a lot of people are going to be hired by telcos. What 5G does, it opens up a new set of use cases and technological ideas which were not there earlier, right? I mean, in the sense which could not have been possible. So I don't think you can have autonomous vehicles if there was no 5G. Edge computing, people have been talking about it, edge computing. So you need the kind of internet, the kind of speeds that you need can only be provided by 5G. So a lot of when the 5G happens, it's also going to start a new wave, new set of application, new set of ideas which can run on 5G. So it's going to be an enabler. So that's another big thing which is going to be happening. The third thing is, the skyrocket growth of startups. I mentioned earlier in the slide that 1,600 startups, came up last year. Currently, I think, if I remember correctly, there are more than 15,000 startups in India. And I come across startups every day. And, we have been reading about how, quite a few of them have become unicorns. And we have like the second largest number of unicorns in the world now. All those kind of stats here. So startups is another big, and every startup then looks at hiring people and growing, and that's another big opportunity, that we have. The fourth thing, which is again happening in India, is that if you look back, and what I mentioned in my talk earlier as well, when we were discussing with Dayaji, was India has always been looked upon as a very, service-oriented, IT industry. We never really had products to showcase. I mean, I can't think of any product other than Tally. Probably, you can hardly think of any product which is like, even accepted across the country or, outside India. But what we have seen in last few years, suddenly you have these product companies which are coming out of India, which are getting, globally recognized. You have organizations like Freshdesk, Zoho, a few of them in, HR, CRM. So, suddenly we have a lot of these product companies which are coming up, and they are going to be big drivers for employment or for the jobs in India. And I can see more and more product companies coming in, and the SaaS model, which is now very well accepted in the industry today, is something which has been a great change in how the software is getting delivered, and because immediately it provides you a very global marketplace, and it's also linked to what is happening around the cloud. So the product companies are also going to be big drivers of jobs in India. And the last but not least in terms of importance is, what government does has also a huge impact on opportunities in India, in the job market on India. I'm specifically talking in terms of tech jobs. So some of the policies that the government of India brings in can have a huge impact and create a lot of opportunities, job opportunities. For example, I don't know if you're aware, the Indian government just came out with a new geospatial industry policy a few days back, and it really opens up in terms of that anybody can go anywhere and start making maps. And I can see that this new policy is going to create huge opportunities for drones, unmanned vehicles, mobile mapping opportunities, and a lot more organizations are going to come. And once you collect all this huge amount of data, then you need engineers to analyze the data analytics, AI, ML. So all these become the growth vehicles for doing all this kind of work. This policy change. Of course, it may not have immediate impact. It might take 2-3 years before the impact of seen. Electric vehicles, we are already seeing a lot very favorable electric vehicle adoption policies being released by state after state. Delhi came out with excellent policy. Other states came out with the policy. The government India is trying to push the policy, which means suddenly you'll see a lot more companies coming and trying to build electric vehicles. We have heard Ola trying to build scooters. Then we have few these guys, I think Luminous or some other organizations who are already into now making 2-wheelers. Somebody's making 3-wheelers. Somebody's making e-rickshaw. So all these things are happening, and suddenly these also create job opportunities for us. And then I talked about the space policies also opening up, and that and I've seen I think last 1 year, at least I've seen 5 to 10 companies started coming in the space of space. Some of them are looking at building payloads. Some of them are looking at building rockets. All kind of things are happening. And then, of course, the Atmanirbhar policy and the digital India. All these are, I think, this technology or policy changes are going to have create huge job opportunities in India. I mean, I don't know if you know how many of you know Digital India, but Digital India is a program from government where they're connecting each and every village across the country through very high speed internet. The project started, around probably 8-10 years back. It's still not picked up at the pace it was supposed to pick up. But I think once that village gets connected, you can think of the kind of business or opportunities that's going to create within the India for tech industry. Now, I mean, we keep hearing a lot of things, and what we're talking earlier, the 2021 again is going to be year of technology. A lot of new things. Of course, we have health tech, VR, AR, VR, which is augmented reality, virtual reality. These are big things. We already see that happening. Edge computing, edge AI. India being an agricultural hub, agricultural-oriented company, a lot of agri-tech. We're already seeing changes in fintech. Paytm being a big example of that. And I mentioned about electric vehicles. So these are new sort of change, or these are new drivers for what I would say the technology areas where you will see a lot of growth. And if you're looking at where to align yourself, you may want to look at some of these areas and see which areas you would want to work on your skills and upskill yourself. So, I mean, of course, there are a lot of reports have come out about, what kind of jobs, which are the emerging jobs in the market. You can go and look at there's a report by LinkedIn. Again, LinkedIn is a great platform, for today for professionals. And so they talk about, they've come out with a report which talks about the emerging jobs. And like what Dayaji was asking earlier, this probably gives you an answer of, what kind of jobs, especially from a tech side, especially for a coder developer, you'll see a lot of things which will be, something which is applicable to you. But the big ideas are blockchain, AI, RPA, robotic process automation. It's a lot of things about automation. Of course, digital marketing, Python, which is again linked to more to AI, ML. So you're going to see a lot of those kind of, jobs or opportunities for the, new kids on the block or people who want to looking at a lateral shift. Now you must be wondering, where are these jobs? Okay, I mean, which are the cities or areas in India where these jobs have we talked about? There are a lot of jobs, but where really are these jobs? So currently, if you look at that 6, tech hotspots in India, right? Bangalore, Hyderabad, Delhi, NCR, Chennai, Mumbai, and Pune. Dayaji talked about, Bikaner and Jodhpur and, those places. Now, what in the last few years, of course, beyond these 6 major hubs, a new set of, emerging hubs were there. Quite a few of them in South, Trivandrum, Kochi, Coimbatore, Pune, Jaipur, Chandigarh. Of course, all of them are not on the map here. Bhubaneswar, Calcutta. So we see a lot more new, just because the demands are growing for the, technology jobs, we see more hubs also coming. People want to probably stay in area, so that the jobs could be pretty close to where the place of stay. Now, the third thing that is happening is now with the work from home culture and what the pandemic has done, a lot of recruiters, a lot of organizations are saying, hey, look, the job seekers may not come to these hotspots. They can pretty much work from wherever they are. And that's the third. So you will see a lot more small, maybe third level of hubs also emerging, or such cities starts to emerge, where you could have big organization could still start to have small offices and people can go and work from there or work from home. So we'll see a lot of those kind of changes happening in the next few years now. This COVID is going to bring about quite a bit of change in the way where people are located in terms of when they have to work. Now, just taking off from where I was just mentioning is how is the hiring going to look like in 2021? Now, as I mentioned, the first thing is the hiring may not remain very geography specific, which means that it's not that, okay, when somebody is talking to you saying, okay, either if you want to work with us, you have to either be in Gurgaon or Noida or, Bangalore or Mumbai. Literally, for a lot of jobs, a lot of organization, you could be anywhere and you could work, and they're really pretty okay with that. So it's sort of the geography is going to be a non-factor now. It doesn't matter where you are. Of course, they'll expect you to have a good internet connectivity, good broadband connectivity, a small place to work, a desk and table. So those kind of minimal, some requirements should be there. But we'll see more. We see more adoption of people working from home, and they could be then physically anywhere across the country. The second thing is the hiring is going to move more on the skill based than based on your resume. What that means is that it may not matter so much now that which college you are coming from. People are purely going to sort of start looking at you based on your skills, and not so much of from where or which organization or which college you are coming from. And in order to do that, how do you do that? Earlier when we did not have, so in order to need to have tools to assess somebody, right? Earlier when we did not have tools, we would talk to people, we would look at their resumes, we would look at what kind of college they are and say, oh, if he's coming from this kind of college, it must be really good. If he worked for this kind of organization, it must be really good. So let's hire him. Now, what we are seeing, and we as an organization have also used, is that organizations now are using a lot of developer, a lot of assessment tools, right? So there are assessment tools which they'll give you a project, you sit on the tool, and it will ask you to give you a problem statement where you're supposed to do a coding with a time-bound coding, and the tool itself will assess for you how good or bad coding you have done, right? So your skills are now being tested. It's not about just looking at what you did in the past, but actually somebody is going to sit and test your skills. And similarly, not only people are not going to just test you on your skills in terms of your coding skills or your tech skills, but you're also going to be checked on your communication skills, your qualitative assessment skills, those of things, and all kind of tools are now available to do that kind of assessment. And people, as I said, people would want organizations want people who have who have a very wide set of skills. That's not only technical skills, the non-technical, the soft skills are equally important. How is your analytical thinking? They want to understand that. It doesn't have to come from coding. So there are tools to assess that. So you will see more as you go into the market, you'll see that more organizations are asking you to take these tests. And as an organization, we as an organization also are looking at to use more and more tools to assess people who are going to be onboarded with us.
Dr. Rajeev, may I request you to kind of say another maybe 5 minutes or so, if we can conclude it in the interest of time. Thank you so much. Thank you.
The other thing that we need to look, other thing that's going to happen in diversity hiring, in terms of the gender diversity, all of us we know about. So more and more organizations are looking at looking at people. For both the genders, across the genders. Again, diversity could also mean now more in terms of different areas across the country, different languages. So it's all kind of diversity is going to happen. It's not just like saying okay, just we're going to have one kind of people. We want more broader diversity because they bring new ideas and new thoughts. So you must be wondering, what really goes behind hiring. And everybody wants to, when you think of dream jobs, you're thinking in terms of everybody like FANG. The FANG stands for Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google. So everybody wants to work for these kind of organizations. But they have a very, if you look at the kind of process they have a very tight process about, they really value their people, and they really have a very extensive process before they onboard somebody. And I've just give you some flow of how the process looks like. But the key thing is they not only look at your technical skills, they look at your non-technical skills. How would you fit into their organizations? They would probably have an informal meeting with you. So they look at an all-round, personality of yours, just not looking at your tech skills. You can probably, there are a lot of videos available on the internet. You can go, and if you search for how Google hires, you'll see a bunch of videos, and you can actually go through those videos to understand how these organizations hire. Of course, as I said, the role of soft skills are very important when you work with these kind of organizations, and of course, some of the other things in terms of which is very specific to the coding part is understanding the system, the analytical mindset, understanding data structures and algorithms. So these are, just I've given you a couple of videos are here, but you can go back, and if you search on the net, you'll see a lot of videos in terms of how top companies hire, how Google hires. And there are people actually from Google who are talking, or people from these organizations who are talking. So you'll get a sense of what they look into, the candidates. All right. So now, I mean, in terms of if when you're going, if you're looking for your dream job, so there are few things that you need to do before the interview. There are few things that you have to do during the interview, and there are few things that you have to do after the interview, right? So I'll just quickly walk you through in terms of what are the few things that you probably need to do before you start applying for jobs and start looking for. So personally, I believe that LinkedIn is one of the greatest best platform where you should be visible to to your potential target companies, right? So go ahead and have yourself a good profile of your on the LinkedIn. Start networking, even if you're in college, or it doesn't matter wherever, which part of life you start networking with people, connect with them, follow those organizations, follow those people that you have, that you want to really work for. If they post something, like them, put some comments so that you're always in their radar. Use your alumni network wherever you are. Every organization would have some great alumni. Reach out to them, and trust me, they're always ready to help. Of course, continuously, if you're on the LinkedIn, you can have some people also give you a few references. They can write some comments about you. Those are the kind of things. If somebody comes to us for a job interview, one of the first things we probably, my HR and I would do is go back and look at the profile on LinkedIn and see what are other people telling him, talking about him. What is the kind of content that he's been posting, or what are the kind of people that he's following. So you look at all those things today, and I'm sure you people understand social more than anybody else. And the other important thing is the resume. Resume, whatever you send, go through it. So few just checklists that you need to do. If you are from, if you're just a fresher, don't just make the resume big by just listing all the courses. Put few courses which we feel are critical. Most important thing is point number 2. Customize the resume based on the job that you are looking at. Don't have very generic resume. It should be specific to a role. You may want to put specific items to that role. Don't make it very large. Don't have it bigger than 1 page. Mention your hobbies and extra, as I mentioned earlier. We look at hobbies, and it's very important to do. And do all those kind of basic checks on the resume in terms of, make sure that there are no spelling mistakes, the contact information is correct, there are no broken links. So do all these basic hygiene checks. I think that is important. The other thing that you may want to do is start looking at what kind of hackathons are happening. There are a lot of hackathons happening across the country, even globally, right? Of course, the Incubate IND is one such platform which keeps organizing, hackathons. There are other ones as well, Machine Hack or Tech Gig. Go and participate in those hackathons, because you get noticed. A lot of startups today look at these hackathons to even hire people. So you want to get yourself noticed, and one good way is to go and participate in these hackathons. One important thing, once if you're applying for a company or you're called for an interview, make sure that before you go for the interview, you research the company well. You know about their products, their competition. Go and read about them, what in the news and the media. I've had a lot of times I had people come in, and very senior level people, and I ask them, what do you know about leptin? And they say, they just don't know anything about leptin. The next thing I ask them, okay, what do you understand the job profile well? Again, no, I understand this. So I'm saying these are few things that you need to know well, know about the organization well, know about the job profile in advance before you go for the interview. And of course, register yourself on hiring, sites like AngelList, Incubate IND, which they're looking at providing that kind of service, so that you are visible to a larger, when the HR organizations of your company, your target companies as well. So what do you do on the D-Day? Okay, this is again, we are in the tech world. People think casual clothing is okay. It's okay. But when you go for an interview, or even if you're online, just make sure that you're formally casual. It's cannot be too casual. It doesn't give you a very good impression. The first impression people get is when somebody looks at somebody. So make sure you're clean. You're wearing a nice, shirt, t-shirt, doesn't matter, but you should look smart. You should be smartly dressed, right? It makes a difference. I can tell you, it just makes a difference with the way you dress up and come for an interview. Post-interview, just basic etiquettes. Just go through whatever you've given the interview. Go through it and understand what you did right, what you didn't right. Maybe you can write a thank you note a couple of days. Maybe you may not get a job, but never worry. Sometimes they will come back to you after maybe a few years and say, look, we have come across another opportunity for you. Keep in touch. Give them some time. Again, follow with them. So you can do these kind of things to be in touch with the places where you interviewed. But the last thing that I want to end is, we are only talking about jobs. But I believe the world is your oyster now. And this is the age of entrepreneurs, startups. All of you have the capability to become from a job seeker to job provider. So change your mindset. See if you can become a job provider. There are so that's the greatest. I mean, and there's a lot of money floating around, a lot of ideas floating around, and there are huge opportunities are there. This is one thing you can really think about. The second thing is the other models of working also today available. You don't have to working full time. You can work as solopreneur. You can work as a freelancer. You can start single person agencies. So all kind of models are available today, and organizations are ready to look at all these options. I hire freelancers. We work with small companies. So it's not that nobody's looking at these kind of things. And of course, the most important that I talked about is be curious. Always keep upskilling yourself depending on what the market requires. So I want to end with this quote from Walt Disney, which says, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. So don't be disheartened if you lose one job. Keep pursuing, and I can assure you will get a success one day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajeev. Thank you so much. This was wonderful. This was quite an insightful,
Thank you.
And loved it. Thank you so much. I think once again, thank you so much, Dr. Rajeev.